Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast all about video games and craft beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben. It's episode 433, and I'm here with Lucy.
I am a craft beer lover.
Good. And Aadil.
Hey.
Are you a craft beer lover, sir?
Yes.
Good.
I think you would describe me as both a craft beer lover and a craft beer fighter.
You like Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson?
I rescind previous comments.
Only old
I
people
don't
will
think
get
I'd
that one.
want to be like any of them. Yeah.
No, absolutely
honest,
not in the slightest.
No, let's drink some beers. Let's drink some beers. Lucy, what are you going to be drinking this evening?
I was gonna have an alcohol-free beer, but instead of that, I'm just gonna drink water.
Fair enough.
There's no difference.
It has got to that point. Yes.
No. I had a beer. Well, we're recording on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the United match.
Yeah.
That was a verdant beer. I don't think it's in here, but yeah, that was nice. So I've had my fill and I'm ready for bed. So it's more like Horlicks time than
Fair.
beer time, even alcohol-free beer. So yeah, just water today.
Nice. Aadil, what are you going to drink tonight?
I've got lovely beer from Tartarus. It's called Snow Wassett. Snow Wassett. It's a maple and pecan hot chocolate stout, 5.5%. It does not have lactose. And so, honestly, because most of these like lovely stouts that are anyway chocolate, let alone hot chocolate, are also lactose-y, that my veganity prevents me. I was like, well, I'm going to have to buy this. They also had the tea.
Oh, yeah.
But one that's quite strong, and I'm also quite tired.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I don't ruin my sleep, but also you talked about it the other week on the podcast. It's 5.5%. No flavor text, but the Snow Wassett has this lovely wolfy thing on it, presumably.
Yeah.
Do we know what a Wassett is?
Not a clue.
Let me Google. I'm guessing it's a Scottish hound of some sort.
It's like a were basset.
Yes. So what's all?
Come on, Lucy. Give us the lowdown.
No. AI has infiltrated my phone.
Oh.
The Google.
I mean, that's probably been the case for a while, but
yeah. Is this real? Okay, there are multiple matches for Wassett, including a mythical creature, a company, and a beer. So I guess it's a mythical creature. And it brings up the Snow Wassett.
Oh,
okay. Snow Wassett is a limbless snake-like creature with white or grey fur that lives underground.
Yeah, okay, so I'm on Monster Wiki, monster.fandom.com. Snow Wassett is a creature which originated with North American pioneer oral traditions, known to be a migratory creature which spends its winters in the heavily forested areas around the Great Lakes during winter. Physiologically, it's growing short legs during the summer, which it uses to creep around in order to avoid the light and remain in the shade. Once the first snow comes, however, it sheds these legs in order to burrow its way north through the drifts in search of hibernating prey. Said to be a vicious predator with an enormous appetite, the Wassett is 4 times as large as a wolverine, but 40 times more active. This means that it must eat a vast amount in order to hold starvation at bay.
Yeah, it looks like an fox that looks like the slug cat from like Rainworld,
right?
Like, with no legs,
yeah,
and just like a worm body.
Kudos for Tartarus for finding out about this nonsense. I mean, they always do mythical stuff, but this feels like, oh, well, we've done everything, like Roman and like Gaelic and Greek. We've redone the Greeks and the Romans. So, do you like my Tartarus accent, by the way?
It's good.
Get the D&D
Google.
bestiary out.
Yeah. Oh, wait. A Wassett? Do you think someone pointed at an Arctic fox and said, "Is that a Wassett?"
Yeah.
And the response was, "That's Snow Wassett." And then there was a confusion. I'm going to crack this beer.
Good. Open your beer. I will talk a touch about mine. I picked up this beer thinking it was a Beak beer because the way it was turned on the shelf was this. And I'm like, "Ooh, that looks nice." And I saw the word Dipper, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll have that." And now I've looked at the rest of the can. I realise it's actually a Deya beer. It's just a collaboration with Beak.
Well, let me spell Beak beer then.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's called Driving That Train. It's a bright double IPA, they say. 8%. Canned at Deya. And you can tell how much. I'm just like, cool can art. Beak, get it. Yep, fine. It does have a touch of flavour text. A crisp, clean, bright double IPA. Brewed with our good friends at Beak Brewery. Nelson, Motueka, and Citra in all formats. Lending punchy layers of lupulin goodness and a clean, dry finish. There you go. That's it.
Be hoppy. That's what I gauge from that.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. They said it's a bright double IPA. So that's, I don't know what the distinction of that is.
Yeah. What's a dim IPA then?
Bland IPA.
By the big corporations. Minor sidebar. My Audacity just clicked out. So I had to restart. So you'll have to use the regular stream audio for up until now.
That's fine. That's okay.
I just figured you might want to note the timestamp.
Yep. Cool. Wicked. We'll come back to you, Aadil, then for the beer.
So unsurprisingly, it poured with almost no head, and it is very, very dark. Like even with the light streaming into it, it's just very opaque. It looks, with my lights dim in the room, it looks more black than brown, so it's like much darker than a cola. I also grabbed this. I forgot. To be honest, the maple jumped out at me. Maple and pecan are very Canadian flavors. Maple, obviously, very famous, and frankly, my home country is having a time. This smells luxurious. You get hints of the cacao, the chocolate, bit of the nuttiness, but the sweet is like it's got like most of the nose is sweet, but the chocolate's sort of on top of it, so it doesn't just like hit you with sweet, but all of the sweet smells like maple, so it's not like generic sweet, it's that lovely maple-ness. Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've ever tried like good maple syrup.
I will remember this next time I'm back in the homeland.
You can buy like fake British knockoff Canadian.
You can buy
maple
Canadian
syrup,
maple syrup, but it's obviously. Oh, it's got a lovely. Just off one sip, it's got a lovely burnt taste to it. It's a nice full-bodied stout for 5.5%. It feels full enough. Canadian maple syrup. Yes, there are gradations, but I will say, like the grocery store, big grocery store maple syrup that I get, that's like generic Canadian maple syrup, and the stuff branded Canadian maple syrup tastes differently and in the direction you probably presume.
Right.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I will have to remember that to bring, because that stuff keeps forever. I could bring I was gonna say a canister, which is not
a sachet.
Yeah.
A canister.
I'll just pour some maple syrup in my bag. Yeah, this is really good. Like I said, it's got this lovely malty burnt, like not acrid burnt, but like burnt, and the chocolate, just the chocolatey whatever's in here. Considering it just says water, barley, wheat, oats, hops, and yeast, I'm surprised there's not like a cow in it, because I'm getting that like strong dark chocolate vibe, and it's working so well with that burnt malty taste. And so you get that like hit of everything, then the sort of core burnt malty taste comes in, then you get this hit of like the maple, and then as the malty taste goes away, the maple which has been sitting there stays, and that's sort of when you notice that it's more complex than just that maple sweetness, because once the sort of the more boisterous part is starting to fade, you could taste that interaction between the nuttiness, the maple and the pecan sort of taste. So, which is nice because that means that it's as the like core taste fades, you're still getting something complex that sort of stays around and brings itself forward. That's really excellent. And at 5.5%, a bit dangerous because I might buy more. Usually the Tartarus tends to be big boisterous beers, and I'm like, well, this was good for the podcast. I shouldn't buy 3 tins because don't need to like casually after a long day's work have a 10% stout. So like I can like use the podcast as this is a beer I want, and then I can use that as a way of not getting more. But at 5.5%, I could just have 2 or 3 in the fridge. I mean, the one thing that's probably the saving grace is I hadn't grabbed this earlier because it's been out for a bit. And now that the weather's turning, my like urge to have a stout ready to go is lessening. Obviously, it never disappears because I am a lover of craft beer.
Yes, absolutely, of course. Round the corner have just increased their range of New Bristol Brewery beers, including the Super Deluxe Stout that they made, which is a 7% one, which is absolutely lovely, and another stout, which I can't remember what the name was, but I think it was about 4.5%, maybe 4.6, something like that. So a little bit lighter. So definitely toning down slightly on the stout percentages as we go into the spring. But it's always time for stout, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Good. So the collaboration, Deya Beak collaboration. It's so very, very translucent.
Okay.
Very carbonated when I poured it. Really white foamy head, disappeared incredibly quickly.
It looks like a Brute IPA when those were kicking about.
Oh yeah, like the champagne kind of coloured, very translucent sort of beers. But this is nice, very very sweet nose, but subtle. It's kind of almost candy sweet, but not big. It's very light in its nose. But getting a couple of other things in there, maybe a little bit of stone fruit as well. And it was quite big kind of carbonation when I poured, but that's dulled down a reasonable amount. There's a touch to it. It's not flat, but the carbonation's almost disappeared. But flavour-wise, it's very, very nice. It's very light. It's not a big flavour at the fore of it. To start, you get a little bit of sweetness. Just trying to work out what that is, because at the moment I'm getting a hell of a metamorphosis kind of going on from this flavour. It started out kind of very, very light, more like a lager, like a floral kind of lager coming through, but it's changing quite a lot, and the earthier notes are kind of kicking in a little bit. So there's a bit of a floral note in there. There's a little bit of sweetness, but again, that's dulled down quite a lot. And maybe it's something around a little bit of a bit of lemon, a bit of zest in there as well. A bit more of a citrus sort of sweetness to it. But there's this big, very bold, earthy note which slowly crept in and is now the dominating kind of flavour. There's still that bit of floral sweetness, still that little bit of citrus sweetness in there, but it's that bigger kind of end to it, which is a little bit acrid, not massively, but just a touch. And that's kind of there's not a bitterness on the back end of that earthy note, but it's that kind of slightly acrid end note to it. And that's sort of what stays.
I like roasted malts, kind of.
Maybe.
Because I'd imagine that's probably coming from the malt more than anything.
It could be, but it's hard to tell with the way that all of these flavors have kind of merged together or flown through and then sort of merged together at the end. It's a hard beer to describe, but it's very nice. I would not have said this was, an 8% beer in any way whatsoever. If someone had said, it's a bit more of an experimental Helles or something, I'd go, yeah, great. It's a bit more of a fruit-forward Helles. Perfect. That's what this beer is. Yeah. It's not a bright double IPA at all. They're lying to me.
I still think they have like stuff left in the barrels from the Brute IPA and just like, what should we call it? And they're just like, just call it Love Day. Just call it Bright instead of Brute.
It's not Brute because it's just part. We've added more beer to the Brute.
So we've added an extra letter to an extra couple of letters to that instead. Yeah. Nice. It's good. It's very good. But that nice and interesting mix of flavors fades quite quickly. So it's a nice light start into a bit of a bigger kind of mid and then finish, but the finish peters out quite quickly. And I think that's good because where you're left with that slightly more acrid note, it's good that that's not sticking around that much. That dulls back down. You get a bit of sweetness at the end, and then it's kind of gone. But it's going down a treat. And as I say, it doesn't feel like 8% in any way whatsoever. It will disappear very, very quickly. So let's jump into games for this week. Talk about what we've been playing or anything else anyone wants to talk about. I've got a couple of games to touch on. One is retreading some of Lucy's ground in the last episode. But is there anything anyone else wants to jump in with? Or any other games anyone's been playing?
Well, I checked out some of the Steam demos from the Next Fest. I think the highlights for me were two little games that I'd never heard of called let's go back to Steam and they're installed locally. Thank you. One is called Castle v Castle, which is a very simple strategy game. It's literally tower defense. It's basically black and white, very simple art style. You have on one side of the screen there's your castle, and then you're playing against a CPU who has their castle, and it's card based, and it's basically just going in turns, and all these different cards of like it's basically you can build your own tower / castle, or you can attack the CPU's castle, or there's other like abilities like magic that give you like other abilities and buffs and stuff like there's one where you can like place a mirror in front of your castle, so whatever move the enemy does to you, it's like reflected back onto them. And it's just back and forth. It seems simple. I mean, these are all demos, so it's like, how much is it going to be the final build of the game? But it's basically roguelike, and it's like, sometimes you just feel like you're backed into a little bit of a corner because after each turn you're basically building up inventory, and there's like different stats. It's like, okay, one's magic, one's bricks for my build ability, and the other is how much like attack you can do. And it's sometimes the cards that fall in your way, you just don't have enough of those things amassed or built up in your inventory to use them. So it's like, I'm having to like just bin cards and skip a turn each time. So I think with refinement, which it's obviously going to get, is still in demo. It seems like a cool little strategy game that is just like, I mean, I can't remember how much I played, but it was like one of those where it's like one more go. So it's got that kind of addictive loop to it.
That's nice, because I was just trying to think where can this game go past the demo, apart from some refinement, maybe a little sort of unlock?
Mhm.
You know, your first few rounds, you've only got 5 cards or 6 cards to choose from, and as you kind of move through it, you're unlocking more cards and that kind of thing. But it's, I suppose, really like, not quite the same, but something like Balatro, which is the same loop every time you're sort of doing it with those with modifiers. It would be a similar kind of thing to this. It's the same loop every time, and I like the aesthetic. I love that it's actually a tower defense game where they're literally facing each other, sort of right there. But yeah, I can't.
It looks like a Flash game almost.
It does, absolutely. This is kind of one of those games when your internet's down, Google pops this up for you to just have a quick go at. You're a running dinosaur, you're playing a quick tower defense game, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be my only worry about where it can go.
Yeah, I don't know how much legs it's going to have, but it's just like, say if it came out, it was like, oh, a couple quid, and it's something you could just, spend your time doing, like, I don't know, in between waiting on Call of Duty maps to load or something like that. Yeah, it seems cool. It seems cool. I think it's just like maybe like one person development team doing it. So yeah, very small in scope and scale, but it just seems cool. My favorite game that I played was called Shotgun Cop Man. Shotgun Cop Man. I have to say it with the right inflection because otherwise, it just doesn't work. Because this is a very get straight to the point kind of deal. Is it a Devolver game? Because it has that vibe. Let me look at the store page, see who's publishing it. Yeah,
that image, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically this like it looks like a thumb. This
it's like a hot dog
in a suit in like a hot dog in like an Agent 47 suit, and and the game starts where it's like small tutorial and it's like going into levels and it's like, oh, I'm shotgun cop man and I'm here to kill the devil, and the devil's like, F you, shotgun cop man, and then it's just like the game starts, and it's I guess you could call it like a physics-based action platformer. It's all about the propulsion and like basically you have like a pistol, and a shotgun, and both can do like damage to the enemies there, and both can basically propel you through the level. That is how you move. There's no like using WASD or the arrow keys to move like in whatever direction. You're basically having to shoot your shotgun or your pistol. Like the pistol does like small, finer like kind of degrees of movement, whereas the shotgun is just like kaplato, and you just completely launch yourself in the opposite direction to where you're shooting. And it's basically like flying through the air, and your ammo reloads every time you hit the ground.
Right.
But it's sort of like super. What is it? Super Meat Ball? What's it called?
Super Meat Boy.
Super Meat Boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super Meat Boy.
I want to play Super Meat Ball. Yeah.
Yeah. Super Meat Boy kind of speed to the level, very short levels that can be completed in like 45 seconds a minute. Very bite-sized kind of things that you want to, perfect, restart, and just get it like so. Like you've killed all the enemies, you've not taken a death, and you've beaten like the time trial. But on the other hand, it's also like not punishing. It's like if you basically have life and hearts and stuff like that. So it isn't a case where it's like one hit kill, you're dead. You get the opportunity to recover your health as well. And if you die, from what I can tell in the demo, I don't know if it's just for the demo, but or if it's in the final game. If you die, you just like reset from where you are. It seems like there's no punishment for dying.
Right.
It's just a case of, oh, if I want to go on a deathless run, that's basically, my impetus, my whatever I want to do, not what the game's forcing on me, which is nice. Because I can imagine like some of the levels. It seems like it's going to have like over 100 levels from what I could see in the demo. it seems like something where it's like, okay, these are probably going to get very tricky and complex, and yeah, even the short time I was playing the demo, it's like I got it, but sometimes you're still having to, use your brain, just being like, oh gosh, which way should I shoot? Which way should I do this? And it's like sometimes I had to pause and be like, okay, everything's getting a bit hectic now. I need to kind of recalibrate. But it's one of those where it's like you can just get into a flow state where you're just pirouetting in the air and just shooting all these guys, and everything just sings harmoniously, and it's just it has that kind of flow and feel to it. So that's good. Where it's like, oh, it's one of those, because I never liked Super Meat Boy, not Ball, because I don't know, it felt a bit floaty, and it was just not my kind of thing, and it was just like whatever. But this seems like something where it's like it's not too punishing, so you can play it however you feel, whatever your skill is, and it's not going to punish you for not, getting a flawless run, and I like the thought of that. And yeah, it just seems really stupid because with this, he looks like Kingpin. In a
I like he hasn't got eyes; he's just got indents.
Yeah, yeah. Shotgun Copman.
Yeah, he looks like something.
No, Shotgun Copman.
Shotgun
yeah,
Cop Man. Yeah. Not Shotgun Cop Man. Shotgun Cop Man.
Yeah, because the shotgun and the S and the C and the M are capitalized in the titles. Presumably, Shotgun Cop Man, but without the pauses. So.
Yes, deliberate.
Yeah.
I think deliberate. Nice. That looks good. Yeah. I like the look of that. Absolutely.
But I think the only other demo that I played that is of note, because I'm sure, probably both of you will be interested in, is that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
The tactics game. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown. Yeah, Tactical Takedown. It seems like it needs some more time in the oven. Again, demo. But it's I like the thought of it. I don't know how it's gonna hold up in the final game.
Okay.
It seems like I think it's leaning on the fact that these turtles are they're kind of powerful. They're in the demo I played as Michelangelo. I only did the tutorial, but it's I don't know. It seems like it was just throwing a lot of enemies at you, and it didn't seem to be sort of what is it? Fights in tight spaces, where it's just okay, I only have so many moves, and I'm in a very limited space, and there's only so many things that I can do.
Right.
This seems to want to be oh, you're a turtle, and it's you can flip over guys, and you can use your skateboard and ride over them, and it's it seems like there's it's offering you too much freedom to do that, and maybe not enough friction in terms of oh, you're going to have to actually really think about how to get out of these tight encounters and stuff like that. It seemed a bit loosey goosey, a bit bit too Michelangelo where it's yeah, whatever. maybe the other turtles will have more of a limited moveset, and limited ability to get across the playing field. But I don't know, it didn't convince me. The one thing I did like that I thought was quite interesting is that it's basically you were just moving through a level, and the level will disappear behind you, so you're having to continually move into across the playing field. Otherwise it's just oh, behind you it's just turns red and like there's nothing left, and that means you can like kick enemies off and into the void and stuff like that. So that's interesting. That might cause some more friction where it's like, oh, I need to get into this space, but like I don't know, Shredder's here and stuff like that, but I have to, I can't stay where I am, and I'm possibly gonna have to put myself in like line of fire or danger. But yeah, it seems a bit early in terms of where it is.
Right.
Especially stuff where it's just like the UI and the tutorialization. It's like things obviously haven't been smoothed out. So, but I like the look of it. I like kind of like apart from like the weird Comic Sans font in the in the UI and menus. I like the look of like it's sort of like a Hitman Go kind of like actual like little game pieces of the turtles. That looks cool. But,
it's exactly the first thought I had when it popped up, when the trailer sort of popped up. It does have that kind of feel to it. Those game pieces look very nice, and they obviously changed. They're not animated as such, but they change position depending on what they're doing. So it might be a foot soldier that's just like this, and then suddenly if they've come in for a punch, it's the next kind of model, I suppose.
That looks really cool. Yeah. But it feels like, oh, you're playing like with mini figurines with like, I don't know, a 4-year-old child who just wants to be like across like the board, and it's just like there's no finesse or like friction or thought behind it. But as I say, that could just be what I've taken from it. What happens in the final game? I'm sure whatever tweaks. Same with like Castle v Castle. I mean, they've got time to work on it and refine it. So yeah,
absolutely. I did see Knights in Tight Spaces came out a couple of days ago as well, which is a very very similar kind of game using cards or whatever Turtles uses sort of abilities to sort of play through. So it's if you, and I know Aadil, you really liked Fights in Tight Spaces, so I imagine Knights is just a very coming out as a very polished, refined experience, you would think, just with that different kind of paint job and different experience.
I mean, it's prettier. The animations are deeper. I really like the art style of it. I don't know if you've had a look, but like it still has that sort of drawn effect, but it's like someone has drawn characters, so they've got like shading lines of different colors, presumably what type of unit or side they're on. But then when they do the animation, because of the shading lines like move like they're part of the like clothing or whatever, so it just looks a lot better. Versus Fights in Tight Spaces was quite bare bones, and I think it worked really well. Like it had more of that super hot vibe of like it's supposed to look kind of non-detailed, and the environments are like really good looking and colorful, and then the characters are less colorful, but again with this very good aesthetic detail. I almost bought it on launch day. Sorry?
From the reviews that I've read, I only read 2 reviews. I've heard that it's like having a bigger scope just means it's a little less focused than the first game, and how it's like it's a roguelike and it can be quite challenging, and it's not one of those where it's like in the sweet spot of like an hour or 2 kind of roguelike, and one of those where it's like, yes, I'll pick it up again. It's more of a time sink of like 4 or 5 hours, and then you can possibly just ruin a run, and therefore less compelled to like just pick up and go again, like the best roguelike, Balatro.
Nice. But we'll give. I think you mentioned Aadil a couple of episodes ago. Ground Shout are in Bristol, so give them a shout. Maybe when I have some time to actually do some stuff other than just bury my head in work. Who knows when that will be? Anyway, good.
When
good.
you're dead.
Yeah, probably.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm glad I wasn't the one to say it.
Yep. Whilst I sleep, or when I'm dead. That's the thing.
You'll have a nice retirement. Don't worry.
Yep.
When you're
There's
82.
definitely going to be a social safety net by the time we retire.
Work myself into the grave more. Like. Cool. Nice. Some good demos to check out then from Next Fest. I know there's, again, with every Next Fest, there'll be hundreds of articles on the internet of X person's top 5, X websites top 5 curated list and those kinds of things. So I think Next Fest only ever gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which gets harder and harder then to filter through and find kind of the games to sort of play. Did you just stumble across these games, Lucy, or did you go somewhere and sort of see what other people were playing?
I think the Castle v Castle one was an article. Can't remember where I saw Shotgun Copman. That might have been like a press release or something. There's another one which is a free game. It's a clicker, and it's called Bongo Cat. You know the little meme of the cat going like that. It's just that. Everything you do on your computer, whether it's a mouse click or a keyboard stroke, a little cat goes like that. So yeah, and it's free. It's probably mining Bitcoin or something, but because my computer gets very loud playing it for some reason. But go download that.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll touch on then a couple of things I've played this week, or over the last couple of weeks, really. After your chat about Avowed, Lucy, I managed to get the Steam Deck to sort out playing Game Pass after a failed attempt, and then realised I'd basically just put in the wrong. I put a comma instead of a full stop or something when I was putting the script in to run a specific aspect ratio size. So it was playing it, but it wasn't appeering on the screen because it didn't know what it was trying to do, basically. But I figured that out and have been playing a reasonable amount of Avowed. I'm enjoying it. I like the world, as I think we talked about when you were talking about it, Lucy. I like the Pillars of Eternity world. I like that game. And so it's nice to get a bit more in it without it being too tied to, say, Pillars of Eternity or any of the other games. You don't have to know everything about that world and its lore to be able to kind of play it. It's just fantasy setting number 27, isn't it? So it's kind of you can kind of bowl into it. But it's holding me enough, but I don't know how much it will hold me. I think I'm finding that I'm like, cool, I can't use the telly. I'll get the Steam Deck out. And okay, I'm not playing something else on the Steam Deck. I'll play Avowed. Cool, let's have a look at that and play a little bit more of that. I like that I can just do it in sort of short bursts. Again, there's no need to be sat there for half an hour or an hour to play. I can play 5 minutes, do a couple of bits, do a combat encounter, and then put it down again without having to do too much. And I'm enjoying the level of choice that it provides for you. It's not kind of 1 or 2 dialogue options. On some of the dialogues, you're getting 5 different options that you can kind of pick through, depending on your sort of skills and what options become available to you.
I find those so weird. Like, I'm not a massive RPG fan, so I haven't played many of them. But are they always meant to be like so like differing in tone? The responses, there's like, I'm the noble scion that I'm playing as, like very eloquent and measured answer, and there's like, I don't know, and it's like, who knows?
Like, fuck you,
or just like
why would you tell? Why would you say fuck you to him? What's he done? Not done anything wrong.
It's like, that's just weird to me. I don't know.
I agree. I agree because there's been dialogue options, where I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do the thing for him. But the way you tell him to do the thing is by telling him to fuck himself. I'm like, no, that's not what I want to say. So of course I'll do this for you, or no, fuck you. It's like, there's no middle ground here.
It's weird.
It used to be kind of like 2 or 3 choices that were a bit flavorful, and they might have some impact because you couldn't code that much into it. And then I think the actual problem with RPGs and dialogue choices is like when we started to have like different endings, or like we had the capacity to change larger parts of the game based on your choices, but we didn't have the capacity to do this really well, like at a huge tree, decision tree, mostly because people didn't know how to code it, and also we didn't have the power. So then it was just like, oh well, it's like one of the reasons why some people say video games aren't art is because you see some games and it's like the writing's garbage, right? And it's like when we move to choice structures of, well, it's either good or bad, right? Then as soon as you get put into that technical boundary of you're either being a good person or a bad person, like that's a thing that can happen on every choice. It's just like, first of all, boy, does that warp some people's ethics in a way that other media probably would dream they could do. But like, well, if this is the bad option, I might as well be a dick about it, is like the writer's thought, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like there's no nuance, and also it's just garbage. It's bad writing, and I can see the trajectory of like when this got worse, and it's when it became a mechanic. It became more polarizing, because at that point it's like, well, you're doing the bad guy run, and I'm gonna punish you for, like, there's a counter in the back, right? And now I'm putting more things in the minus side, so I will show you that by making you a dick. But then it's got weird notions of projected morality / I just still want to do a side quest. I want to fucking do this because I have an hour to play the game. Let me just, like, in the same way, right? When someone at work asks you to do a favor, you're not the bad guy if you're busy. You say, I don't have time for that. Sorry, mate. I've got my work to do, which is apparently saving a dragon from a princess or whatever.
Well, yeah. I feel we're working through something with you on this. We're not your therapist.
But it's the same issue we've had a lot of the time with RPGs. It's that there's no sense of urgency. Like, oh my god, there's a meteor falling to the earth. But it's okay. Spend 120 hours doing side quests and cooking and shit. I don't know. I'll turn up at some point, but
I mean, I'm okay with that to a certain extent, because the time is like a bit variable. But obviously, grinding, it's when you say there's a big thing, and then in order to succeed, you have to grind, and you have some notion of the passage of time. Like, I'm actually okay with the idea of, like, I literally spent the entire day killing things. I should be exhausted. That's one day, even though it doesn't really make sense. I'm okay with that nebulousness, but it's when you try and, like, put a day-night cycle, or you try and put notions of the passage of time, or like going to a town and talking to 17 people, then having 50 battles. That's not a day.
No.
Right? And so, like, why I didn't care about it with the OG open world, like 16-bit RPGs, like Chrono Trigger. Well, Chrono Trigger is great because there's time travel, so you can just, like, pretend. But, like, is because there was no mechanics that showed the passage of time, right? Like, the world was quite static, so you could suspend your disbelief of how much happened in this time when the game said, it's been a week since you started your quest. I'm like, I guess it's been a week. Sure. Now it's like, well, it's fucking not, because I've gone to sleep in 7 inns. And what did I do? Book an inn for 5 minutes? Anyway. It's again that balance of writing and game mechanic being disjoint. But again, you can see the tether, because you didn't have to think about that before. And so if you're not careful, the experience with this new mechanic and the old style of writing is jarring, and mostly it. Also, I just think grinding is garbage. I mean, I love
very fun.
Having the option to grind, right? But when you have to, like, you
I'd
be able to, like, if you want that experience, right? Of, like, it feels like the meteor is coming, and I'm going to play this as if I'm racing to, erect a giant umbrella so it bounces off, or whatever the dumb, solution is in these games, right?
No, you have to train the oilers to dig a hole inside the comet to put the C4 inside the comet. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That is the only way.
The Texan oilers.
This is a techno magic future. It's C5. Sorry.
Was it? I'd say the Texan Oilers, but it wasn't. No, I think they're the Houston Oilers, the old NFL team. I can't remember where they were. Anyway,
the one of them. Yeah, one of those southern states.
Yeah, places. Yeah. But I mean, so I think that's why, like, there's some, like, that's the type of thing that actually makes me not want, like, I do like sinking 1 billion hours in RPG. I've had less time in the past, well, let's be honest, a decade probably. Now that I think about the last time I really, because I remember when we first started talking about The Witcher 3, I'm like, oh, when I find the time, I'm definitely going to sink my teeth into
10 years later.
Yeah, but like, the few the few times I've, like, picked one up, right, or started, or thought about it, it's just like, this is the type of thing that makes me not want to go back, because I don't want to grind. I don't want to feel like knowing that the how long to beat tells me, like, to do it fully is going to be 120 hours. To do it not like just a speed run, it's still 60, and then to play it feels like I'm being, like, bait and switched with the very notion of time, which right now is the thing that I don't have a lot of for video games. It's like, okay, so if I want to finish this game at the rate I play game, or could choose to, hobby time, right, free time. I'm playing this for the year, and that's it.
Who started, like, Persona 3 on, like, Vita or something? Are we talking to the same person?
I'm the same person. Why do you think I stopped?
Yeah.
I'm literally describing the experience of stopping, right? Like,
it's just funny, man.
It's because I want to play these games. I like these games. I just don't have as much time.
Yeah. Well, Avowed is shorter, but yeah, Ben, continue. Sorry.
No, absolutely.
I was
just going to chime in on that point, that I think one of the best games to have done that sense of urgency very, very well is Majora's Mask, because you have the hard time limit on it. Yeah. Not many other games have actually done that. Only a Zelda game can get away with basically saying, you've got 3 hours, motherfucker. Just
by making it the central mechanic, that they pay attention. I guess the like underarching point is just like, just because it's not the central mechanic doesn't mean you shouldn't think about how the game feels temporally.
Absolutely. Cool. So I'll finish on Avowed there. I'll play it some more. We'll probably talk about it in weeks or months' time if we both get back to it a bit. But the other one,
I literally played 2 minutes today and then killing those lizard guys in that house.
They're everywhere, Lucy. When you get out of the house, they're all over the shop.
Yeah, but then it was just like, there's this art mural on the wall, and it was what do you think that means? And Noble Sky's like, it could be interpreted this way or that way, or it's like, I don't know, is it like a dick pic? And it's just like, this is not like, on that morality scale that you're talking about, Aadil. It's like, it just, I was just like, what's going on? Why are these two completely diverging, character traits that will not come into the main part of the story? I think it looks like, I don't know, a Jackson Pollock picture versus the Mona Lisa. It doesn't matter, and that's why I can't really get invested in stories in RPGs, because it's like they're just too diverging, and it's like
they absolutely, unless you're looking at
vibing with this character.
Or it's the other way, isn't it? And it's a Final Fantasy game, and it's so rigid that it is just you don't. There's no choice. It is just the story being told to you, and the only choice is kind of I'm going to place number one.
That's why I like FF games. Because they're open world, so if I am not feeling the story, I can fuck around and grind, because I know at some point I haven't played 15 or 16, but and so they're different battle systems. Maybe they've fixed the grinding, but that's part of the game, is to explore on your own terms. And if you really want to find all the things, you will be over leveled by the end, right?
Yep.
And I'm okay with that, because if I want to get to the end, it will be a very challenging fight. And if I've enjoyed the world so much, the end won't be, and that's a decent trade-off, right? But then I don't have this do you want half-baked story ending number 1 or half-baked story number 2? Because there isn't a coherent narrative all the way through. And if I actually prefer, if I'm going to spend 100 hours or even 40 hours, I'd rather have someone have thought through a cool story that develops the characters and interacts with the world and makes me feel like an agent, even if I'm following the beats.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd rather just play as Cloud and whatever he's like. I don't know, stoic loner, than like
That is what he's
have
like.
this.
What?
I have that.
A stoic loner who at some point you're like, fuck, I have to change party members because these guys are so under level. He's so damn popular.
Stoic loner with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Which actually leads me on a little bit to the next game I played, which is Lost Records, Bloomin' Rage, episode 1 or track 1 or whatever, part 1 basically, which is the new Don't Nod.
Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Cool.
I don't like it. I've put it down, and I don't think I'll pick it back up again. It has some very, very cool mechanics, but I just have not clicked with it at all. Basically, you are a character called Swan, and you are jumping between modern day Swan, who is in probably now a very similar age to us, late 30s, early 40s, going back to her, the town of her kind of youth, to meet somebody. And you're kind of treated to this, something bad happened on a night, and we're going to talk about it, and there's lots of trepidation about it, she's not feeling good, and then it'll flash back to to that day, or the lead into the night that kind of happens. And you play her as a young teenager, and moving around and talking with the characters kind of in that 1996 or 7 sort of time. And I liked the idea. I liked that it was jumping between the two things. The kind of the central conceit is that Swan likes to make her own movies. So you have a camcorder which you basically look through the world. I like the change of perspective. So when you're in the modern time, you're first person. When you are back in the 90s, it's third person, but you go into first person view if you're holding your camcorder up. And of course, it's got all the grain, and it looks fucking fantastic, right? They've captured handheld camcorder recording fucking brilliantly. The way that it sort of just captures sound from the distance a bit, how grainy it is, and all of these kinds of things. But my issue is that whilst you use the camcorder to capture things in the environment, and that moves the story along, and it turns it into a bit of a checkbox task. You have to hit this area's points number. You have to capture 5 bits of footage, and there might be 10 different things for you to capture, and that's nice and easy. That's fine. But there's also 10 collectibles in the environment as well, so you can move around the environment and kind of you're taking video footage of graffiti and graffiti piece number 2 and graffitis, or a bird that you see, and these kinds of things. And again, that's kind of fine, but I'm not really fussed about the collectible sort of element of this. I kind of thought, well, it's a Don't Nod story. Let's kind of get into the characters and get into the story. The characters are so incredibly annoying, and there's a lot of issue around when you're trying to record something, how the dialogue that's happening between the two characters, I then go to record something, and the dialogue that triggers because I'm recording something plays over the top of the dialogue that's already happening. And I'm like, so basically I have to wait until this dialogue is finished before I can then start using the camcorder and running around doing the things that I want to kind of do. And it's very, very frustrating that it's putting this kind of block on how long it's taking me to do stuff. And I don't want to rush around and just be like, cool, I hit point 1, hit point 2, hit point 3, done. I've done this bit, I'll move on to the next thing. I want to experience the story. I don't want to understand and hear what the characters are saying and hear the interactions between them and see those relationships build. But it just...
Then you're just standing there,
you just stood there, absolutely, just doing nothing.
Well, yeah, I think the problem is it's not even... So you might not have that idea that you want to rush through, but when the game makes you stand there when you were wanting to still do something without screwing up. Like you were trying to avoid that dialogue, right? You were trying to interact with the game while the dialogue was happening.
Yep.
And now you're stuck waiting. Guess what? As a human, what are you going to do next? Fucking rush to do something. So now it's actually putting you in the mindset that will get more frustrated with
exactly
the thing. Yeah, that's like a compounding design fail.
Yeah, and
it's not. I was just going to say, it's not like, I don't know, God of War or like The Last of Us, where it's like, oh, we're out exploring or on the horse, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll table this conversation for later when you're actually doing something.
And it knows exactly where you are. Those games know exactly. And I'm still playing Ragnarok as well. I've actually, when I played Lost Records over 2 sittings, not long sittings, but I played it over 2 sittings. I'm probably a couple of hours in, or hour and a half in, maybe. I put it down and just put Ragnarok back on. I'm like, no, I just go back to Boy and play that instead, because again, it understands and appreciates my time. That game is constantly understanding that I want to do 5 minutes. Great, combat encounter, cool. There's a pause, perfect. I'll stop here. The conversation happens on the boat. No, I'm getting off the boat. Stop that. The next time I get back in the boat, they pick that back up. And actually, that's it's not just the conversation on the boat that stops. Occasionally, if you're not moving into anything story-wise, the conversation's actually continued a little bit whilst you're getting off the boat, and they'll finish their point rather than kind of cutting off midpoint as well and stuff. So it knows its own pacing really fucking well, and I think Lost Records has no idea about its pacing at all. There's this really odd, almost, and I suppose that you've got a camcorder. You're a young girl who I think it's at least the writing is leaning towards potentially being gay or bisexual in some kind of way. And there's this weird like voyeuristic kind of element to it as well, where the game pops up. So when you're in the environment and you're trying to figure out the puzzle for environment number 3, you've got to find something that's been thrown into the environment, and you're with a bunch of the girls that you've just met. You can just record the girls, right? And they might give you a bit of flavor text and like sort of like, oh, why are you recording me? Or one of them, plays up to the camera. That's her character. That's fine.
Yeah.
But a little kind of box appears above them which says like 0 of 10. It's like, well, I haven't got any recordings of her yet. And now I've got 1 of 10 recording of her. Cool. Now I look at her again, and now I've got 2 of 10 recordings of her. And I can, it can go up to 10, fine. And there'll probably be something at some point which, and the game has this edit mode as well. So I can be like, cool, I'm by the movie rental place. And I have a tape that I can make of movie rental place. And I can record any one of these. I need 5 of these 10 different things in the space. And I can make my own home movie of the video rental place. And it's, of course, a shittily cut, shittily edited kind of thing where it zooms in and out and the focus doesn't work quite so well, and it cuts at awkward points between, and it follows the camera as you judder around and you look at things, and it works kind of very well. But if you then have this weird and I think slightly potentially voyeuristic ability to then edit videos of the girls, I don't know how that might play out. That hasn't popped up yet, but if it's a collectible and it says I can do one of the... Sorry?
Yeah.
Is this a horror game?
No. So I don't know. Because some of
the next 3rd episode can just turn into like Blair Witch, and that's the thing that happens.
Some of the stuff is pointing towards there being some kind of quite tragic event that happens, or quite accidental tragic thing that happens, which essentially made all of the group of girls not be friends anymore, kind of thing.
Right.
Or at least go in their sort of different sort of direction. And I don't know how that plays out.
Life is Strange had, the creepy, do like that's why their friend got killed because of the spoilers for the first Life is Strange, but because of the creepy teacher dude who was. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, or if yeah, Jesus. Yeah, the creepy teacher dude who was like, as you're talking, like this weird voyeuristic creep who drugged teenagers and took pictures of them, and that was like kind of like, oh, wasn't expecting that kind of like switch in the game. So yeah, I thought this might have just been going into like full on Blair Witch horror thing, but yeah, if it's something like that, I'm very intrigued to what it would be then, and I'd be intrigued to play it because of like establish what the tone is, and also I think it would live or die on like how much 90s nostalgia are you showing me. If like the 10 collectibles are like literally, I don't know, a Tamagotchi, an official PlayStation magazine, you know, I don't know.
So there some of them do pop up. Some of them are and do pop up as like old toys. So there's like a troll doll, and then and then there's one that popped up in the space that I was in. I think I can't remember whether it calls it like creepy toys or some other kind of toys, and it's just like this doll with like half its hair and no clothes, you know, and stuff like that, or trash toys or something. So it doesn't lean in. It doesn't lean into it massively so far. I can see where it kind of would, and where it's started to hint at those sorts of things.
I mean, it shouldn't, but for me,
I mean, you don't. If I was making a game that was about someone using a camcorder and like 90s nostalgia, I would have like she's reusing tapes in the camcorder, and so like as you're in edit mode, there's like a bit of a fuzz, and then you see like 4 seconds or like even 2 seconds of some episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because you like got that VHS from your aunt for your birthday, and then you're like, fuck this, I'm gonna record my own shit over top. Because as a kid who his family bought a camcorder for like sisters gymnastics like competitions and stuff. Boy, did I start filming videos with my action figures, right? And it's like, I wish I still had those. There was so much melted plastic that was at one point on film.
Nice. And even going in the horror way, right? And you lean into something like Immortality did really well, where you're scrubbing through video clips, and if you get it and work it in the right way, you get these hidden clips behind those video clips and those kinds of things. But if you're playing through and you're editing video, absolutely, that suddenly you catch a glimpse of something else, that there is something. It doesn't go. It's not as fine of a control system to edit. Basically, you're like, I've recorded 5 seconds of clip, and I've recorded another 5 seconds of clip, and I can put those next to each other, and then I've recorded another 5 seconds of clip, and actually I could just move that one to be in second position, and then that one's in the third position, and it moves through them like that. That is it in terms of the actual kind of editing. They've not lent into that much at all. But yeah, it just hasn't quite clicked with me. There's lots of cool stuff. Absolutely lots of cool stuff. Aesthetically, it's fucking fantastic. It looks beautiful as a game. And that transition between the sort of the modern day, the 90s, and then the camcorder, the actual recording of stuff is so good in how it looks. But I just I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably not alone. Like a lot of the Life is Strange entries after the first one haven't connected with me either. So it's even just one of those.
Even not even the Life is so this extended kind of universe of Life is Stranger likes, right? Yes. There was one a few years ago, which I think was like an Xbox exclusive, which was about two siblings.
Oh yes.
Off my head, I don't know what that was called. Yes. Yeah. Again,
I just think of the
didn't connect with that much. Played a reasonable amount of that one, but just didn't connect.
Yeah.
Never played Life is Strange 2. Even after playing Captain
Brother annoyed
Underpants or whatever it was fucking called.
This is a child. Yeah, I don't like children. I do, but not in my video game. I want to escape them.
Of all of these games, none of them have hit the same high, I think, as the original. Really.
I agree. True Colors is meant to be good, but just haven't got around to it.
True Colors was all right. It was okay, but again, I didn't quite connect with the characters. You know, it does its big kind of shock moment kind of up front, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm moving around the environment in the wake of that and stuff. I'm not really sort of connecting. I'm connecting with the main character. I can't remember the main character's name, but not really with anyone else in the environment. And is that on purpose? Maybe because she's feeling disconnected from everybody, potentially. But there needs to be a little bit more kind of there. And yeah, I think I put that one down quite quickly as well. Really. So yeah, whereas the original Life is Strange sort of just blasted through, really.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, and I don't think I even played it in the episodic way that it came out when it originally came out. I think I played it once all episodes were out and was able to just sort of go straight through. Because we were in a time then of episodic releases like The Walking Dead and Life is Strange. And having a quick look online, Life is Strange, the original game, did come out in 2015. So 10 years, January 2015.
Nuts, man.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah. Cool. So I might come back to it. Lucy, if you pick it up, we'll have another conversation about it, or let me know if you've picked it up and I'll go back to it a little bit and see sort of where I feel after another sort of 30 minutes or something with it.
I'll wait till it's on Game Pass.
No, I think it's it was free on PlayStation Plus. That's why I picked it up. That's why, because it came out kind of day one on there, and I'm like, cool. I've heard some reasonable things about it. I'll take a look. And I like Life is Strange. I like Don't Nod games. Sure, let's have a look. But yeah, cool.
I'll wait for the inevitable Game Pass drop.
Yeah,
like it's here, probably a year from now, because Sony had their months PS Plus exclusivity or some crap like that.
I remember? Did Jasant come out on Game Pass?
Yes.
Was that a day one Game Pass game?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
It
was.
Yeah, Don't Nod not tying themselves necessarily to one kind of platform.
No.
Platform holder.
Probably. Yeah, you know, can't put all your eggs in just one basket. Yeah. Spread them around.
Absolutely. Jasant was good. That was a good game.
Yeah, I really liked that.
Cool. Right. Let's stop talking about games. Finish the episode there for this week. We will return to the beers, though. Aadil, the Tartarus. How did it go down?
It went down great. I will say that lovely trade-off moment of like feeling the burnt fade and getting that maple pecan. Unfortunately, I think my palate got used to the sweet quicker than the more boisterous core, and so I didn't. The first like third, I was still getting that lovely like moment of this maple-y pecan sitting on top of the sort of lingering burnt malty stouty taste, and the last I would say the last half at least I didn't have that clear moment anymore. So still tasty, but it tasted much more just like a very solid Tartarus stout, which again is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I would say the chocolate sort of taste remained pretty strong. But I was missing what I found unique and really interesting about it. Just didn't quite hold on those last sips. It was much easier for me to take bigger sips because I noticed my last sip was quite big, and I realized, the last few sips I've taken were big because it became a bit more one note, so it wasn't like I was trying to have that taste curve. So I only take this much so I can have that, and then I'll have more of it. It was just like, this is feeling a bit more. Once my palate got used to it, just kind of a bit more like a solid tasting stout, but not like an interesting thing that it presented itself at the beginning. Again, still really good, but that would be like my one. Well, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
So to be honest, I think even though it's a 5.5% stout, I think it's like might be the perfect half. Right, because then my palate's you getting used to it right when it finishes, so I'm not going to have that. Oh, but now it doesn't have this like lovely moment.
Yeah, I think some things where it's like, they are better in smaller quantities. Like, well, I think a lot of the times it just depends on like the pour, the carbonation, like,
and the fact that
sometimes if they get too sickly or cloying, some things
I had food right before the podcast because I was at a pub and then a beer store to get this beer. So I was wandering the streets after work.
And a 12% imperial stout fell in your pocket, and you're like, oh yes, I'll go and buy some more of these. Yes, but brilliant.
Yeah, that's exactly, which is why I just had this 5.5%.
Nice. I did just jump on Tartarus's website, and looking in their shop. Two things of note. Yes, they are leaning into lots of different mythological things now. They, have got a Slender Man beer.
Oh,
so they're going into the creepypasta side of things as well, which maybe the Snow Wassett kind of leans into a little bit. Perhaps it's kind of more mythological in like a really localized kind of way, but not necessarily internet mythological like Slenderman is. But that is there now. They still have things like King Arthur, which is a 13% barley wine, Ratatoska, which is actually a character in God of War. I think it's some kind of Norse squirrel and stuff. But the second thing to say is that they're so, I think, unashamedly happy to brew the biggest beers they possibly can. There's a beer called Ladon or Ladon, 120-minute IPA it's called, and it's 15.3%.
Oh my gosh.
£11 for a 330ml bottle. Or again at 27 quid, which I think is incredibly reasonable for a 15% barrel aged imperial stout, 750ml bottle.
I just saw that too.
Yeah. I can waste some money here.
Oh, you know what sucks? The Slender Man is a cookies and cream imperial stout.
Yes.
So vegetarian but not vegan friendly.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably good for my pocketbook, but it's not though, because now it's like, well, if I can't have the Slender Man, I'm gonna have the Cerebus, which is the fucking 27-pound, lovely sounding stout, which I haven't had before.
Yes, the Cerberus as well. They've got like which was the other one I saw? Which the Atropos. I don't know what Atropos is as a thing, but a Belgian quadruple, 10%, just a nice can, 440ml, £7, done, perfect. I'll have one of those, please. Nurse it for an entire evening, probably. But yeah.
It's a Belgian quadruple, yeah.
Oof. Tartarus make good beers. They make big beers. Hopefully for as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, to be honest, this is one of the reasons why I picked this up, because I was like, oh, that sounds great. I was like, oh, do I want a really heavy beer? Like a high ABV beer? Because I'm clearly on like a bit of an edge of a burnout, given that I passed out when I came home after office hours so I could do some work before podcasting and just fell asleep for an hour and a half. I was like, I don't think I need the 10% beer. It's 5.5.
Yep.
Oh.
That's nice.
But also, I actually, now that I think about it, I wonder if the fact that they usually make big beers, the fact this is lower ABV is like why it feels a bit more unbalanced than what I would expect from them.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just a quick thought, but I know we're wrapping up. Sorry.
Nice. No.
How's your water, Lucy?
Yeah, it's. I love water.
Especially Birmingham water. Sparkling, still, tap?
Oh, tap, sir, tap.
So I do sparkling tap because I like bubbles.
Heathen.
What vessel are you drinking out of? I don't think I caught.
A dimpled mug.
Oh, nice.
Oh, classic peanut glass.
I enjoy the amount of bars that I've worked in where you'd have one of those because it is someone's glass.
Yeah.
And they would come in and you'd have to obviously serve them the beer in that glass. And you wouldn't ever wash it up apart from the end of the night when they'd left because they just continuously give you that glass just to refill kind of through the night. I've worked in 4 or 5 pubs where that has been the case.
We are creatures of habit.
Yep.
You know? Give the people their glass. It'll make them feel safe.
Yeah. Oh, man. Imagine how difficult it would be if you've got like 50 regulars and they've all got their own fucking glass behind the bar.
Just label them at that point.
Just to change the topic a bit, not speaking about habits, but we should wrap this up and then continue this next Thursday.
Good stuff. Oh, yes, the battery on the baby monitor is dying. So actually, I probably should. To touch on the Deya and the Beak collaboration beer, then to close us out. It's good. It's a nice beer. It's very light. It doesn't. If you want a double IPA, it's not a double IPA. It doesn't feel like a double IPA in any way whatsoever. Drinking it, so don't go into this thinking as I drank with the Deya double IPA last episode or the episode before, which was fucking fantastic. Big double IPA, getting back to the fruit bomb, juice bomb kind of days. This is not that. It's light, it's flavorful, and has a lovely flow through. But I think would be a little bit polarizing in terms of the actual flavors that it's kind of giving. It's that floral kind of element. There's a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of citrus fruits in there, and then it hits that earthy kind of tone, but leaves you kind of maybe wanting a bit, wanting a bit of finish to it. Doesn't quite get there. And I think the more I drank it, and the more that flavor profile, that journey dulled down, and everything kind of swamped together in terms of a flavor. And I think this would be a lovely beer as a nice tasting beer if the three of us had sat down with a can together and just had that third of a can and gone, this is lovely. This is what a lovely beer this is, and never experienced that like last half of a can where everything is just a swamp of flavors that kind of works, but doesn't work.
It's interesting. We had similar sort of experiences of a bit of a too much of a good thing.
Yeah, almost.
Not quite, because it's not the good. It's the fact that too much sort of made it less of a good thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That famous expression.
Yeah, I had the super glue. I'm just get that. It's very, very bold. I had that in like a half twice. It's just like I see what you were talking about with the the throwback to just like juice bomb kind of IPA. It's very nice.
It is. It's fantastic beer. I almost picked up another one today while I was in the shop as well. Probably should have, and I could have gone and drank it now as well. I'm not saying that this beer is bad at all, and I need something else, but it is just not what you would expect double IPA to be. Cool. So they're the beers, they're the games that we have experienced tonight and over the last week. If you want to tell us about what you're up to, we're I was going to say we're at Tanked Upcast, but we're not anymore because X is a fucking shithole, Twitter's a fucking shithole. So you can go to outoflives.net to look at the video version of this, see the beers that we are drinking in our beautiful faces, or the Out of Lives YouTube page as well. We are at Out of Lives on Blue Sky, which is where we are posting all of our content now from the website. Going to the website is just the easiest thing to do, really. I'm at Nova47 over on Blue Sky. Aadil is
at the Omniarch,
and
Lucy is where she still exists.
Yeah, Juicy Loose 9 pretty much everywhere. Whether I respond, well, come to my YouTube channel. I think if you search Juicy Loose 9, you might get there. Otherwise, it's Lucy Verbalist. One of those two.
Nice.
I should know this, but it's just for the weird anoraks who like to do crosswords.
Absolutely.
So.
Good.
And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably an anorak of some kind. So
more than likely.
Yeah.
Some of them will be crossword. I was gonna say word searches, but it's not fucking word search. Fuck's sake.
Hey.
Crosswords. Some of them will be logic
Train
puzzles,
spotters,
train spotters. Absolutely.
Bird watchers. You know the type.
So, Juicy Loose 9's all one word, one string. First hits Instagram. Lucy Verbalist is in the top 5.
Oh, that's nice.
But unfortunately, there is a content creator called Juicy Lucy with LUCIE 89XXX who takes the middle 2 of the top 5s.
Is it porn inclined? Because that's great company to
Triple X.
Juicy Loose 89XXX, and actually, yeah.
You know what?
Oh, shouldn't have clicked that.
You're in good company, at least.
Yeah. You and this buxom blonde lady are just internet pals.
She's on my turf. One's with, it's like, God, I can't get a job. I need to do something. She's already there.
But she's Juicy Lucy with IE and 89XXX, and you're Juicy
I'm born in 90, so well, there we go.
Oh yeah, so you just have to go Juicy Loose 90XXX for your OnlyFans.
Find my own niche. Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. And it's just you doing a crossword, but your foot in the background, really, really blurred or something like that, just to put.
It's just crossword.
Yeah, no.
Crossword. I think that's a good enough niche. Probably
there are people who do ordinary things without wearing revealing clothing.
I do that every day.
OnlyFans, etc. But I guess the problem is you have to be okay with the fact that the platform attracts people who are looking for a certain type of thrill.
Sure.
And so that even if you aren't showing the usual showing or doing the usual things that cause that type of thrill, the people who are imbibing your content are getting that type of thrill.
Imbibing, Jesus, you could have found a better word.
Oh, I even paused.
But I remember reading an article years ago saying that I think it was like a maths professor, and they were saying that they're putting their videos on like Pornhub.
Oh,
because it was like
and they were getting more revenue from Pornhub views than their YouTube views of math.
Yeah. I mean, you got to reach the people where they are.
Yeah, you got to reach around, definitely.
Wrap it up, please.
We've been tanked up.
Be safe. Wrap it up.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. We've been tanked up. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, bye.
www.outoflives.net